Steve Allen and his man on the street interviews, but half of you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. Right. Not all of you. So anyway, let me just ask you a few questions about.
Hey Joe, is that on?
It's not.
Supposed to be. How about if we just not use it?
What's cute though, Joe?
Talk loud.
Louder.
Okay. Anyway, Ben and Susan have been on the mission field for a few years, and I'm just going to ask them, how did you get into missions to begin? Oh,
No. Actually, I went on a group when I was 13, and I remained a good, strong Christian until I was not really. But I ended up doing whatever teenagers do and whatnot, and God brought me through another mission field to Nicaragua and opened doors there. And actually, I just I didn't talk to my wife. I went there. And I said, you know what, rewind. Susan, a guy came to our church and said, listen, we want you to go on this trip and, you go on this group. And Susan's like, why don't you go? And at that time I had a pretty successful business. We had a successful youth ministry. Things were moving really well. And I was like, no, we got things going. We got too many things happening. She goes, no, you need to go ahead and go. Just relax, take a break, and just go there, do work, and have a good time. And I'm like, no, no, we just got too much stuff going on. And she's like, why don't you just go? And I'm like, because it's gonna mess things up. She's like, no, I got someone taking care of the business. I got this guy doing youth for this. I'm like, no, just go. I'm like, no, it's gonna mess things up. And she's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And I'm like, it's gonna mess things up. And she's like, just go. And I'm like, all right. I didn't say what things it's gonna mess up. So she already did. So I went on this thing, and as soon as I stepped down off that airplane, I knew God called me to the field. He did when I went on that trip, put that heart in there, and I just said, I was like, well, God, you're going to have to tell her, because I'm not going to do it. That's the first thing I said, you're going to tell her, I'm not even going to mention it. When I came home, she sold my surfboard. She sold everything. So at that point, I'm like, you must have already told her. So another trip came, and we went again, and finally I went up to her. We drove up, and she kind of looked at me and looked at her. We had our house. She goes, what are we living for? We're surviving. We're surviving nicely, but we're surviving. And I was like,
It was more like we felt like there was something more for us. I mean, we were already doing stuff. We were already, in ministry and all that stuff, but it was like there was something missing, and we felt like there was something more.
so that's when God pushed us into the field. Because we said, God, if this really is you, break everything. Because we let the brakes fall on us. It's a dumb thing to ask, but that's how you know. And we persevere through everything we do and say, God, if you want us off or you want us doing something else, you knock everything down to where we have no choice. And that's what happened. And,
So God sent you
to Nicaragua, and we were working under another, in Estanislao, another wonderful, very safe area in Nicaragua. Big lie. And we built. Brochures say, "Do not go here." Literally, you go online and says, "Don't go to Estanislao or Mercado Oriental. Don't go to these two places." But we built a school out there, and underneath another mission, and God just had things going, and just things just happened, and we were going to come home because things were going south fast. And we mentioned this to Eric. Well, no, Eric mentioned to us about Corinto, about actually going to things happening, and God just threw everything just happened literally within 2 weeks' time. And while we're praying, God, we want to, we're going to go home. We're going to go home. So we went home to kind of cut it with the other board, and while we were at home, we were getting other missionary groups wanting to come and already start fixing up this house. And we weren't even on NBI yet. We haven't even quit with the other board yet. And God just started opening the doors and just everything. I mean, there was no question at all. And at that point, I'm like, oh, we're going to go home. I can get back to the business. I can get, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it gets tough out there. It does. But when you know it's God's will, when you know you're under the wings of the Lord, it's like, whatever God you want, I'm there. So that's what happened.
So you've been in the missionary ventures for
for 2 years. 2 years now.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
And you're living out in Corinto, which is on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua.
Yes, 45 minutes to Honduras.
Yeah, and it's Nicaragua is about 100 miles from the sun. It's a little warm there. Corinto's about 20. It is one of the hottest places I have been. And you don't even think about pulling the sheets up there.
No, as a matter of fact, you go take a shower
Yeah,
twice
you
Get
before.
yourself wet.
Now, but you live there, and this is going to be the trick question of the evening, or afternoon. You live there and you have kids. How many kids do you have?
3
Are
and
you sure?
4. I was going to say 3 and a half. I was like 3 and a half.
Is
We
it
are
half
expecting.
already? You did that, right?
So, a shock.
Yeah.
Our youngest is gonna be 9.
Yeah.
It is a shock.
So, Paul, they're raising 2 families. You know what that's like. And, you've got Paul's number, I hope. Paul, he knows Charles. Does anybody out there have questions?
Why don't you tell us about the vocations God is doing there?
Yes. Well, like I said, I was a carpenter. I was a trim carpenter for the longest time, and I was just trying to figure out what God wanted, you know. And then I was helping Eric out a little bit, you know, with this little things there at the very beginning of our stay in Nicaragua, and he started sharing me a couple of things about vocational school, and that's actually what I wanted to do with the other company, but then things just didn't happen. And when God put us out there, you know, it just started happening again, and then things started happening with MVI vocational programs in Managua, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're telling me we need a carpenter, and then God moved us away from Managua, away from I'm like, well, let me get there. So I prayed about it, and we were able to start a little. It's small. We're really small now, but we do a discipling for an hour, and then we get into woodworking. We've already made a boat, and it floats. We adjust. I mean, the guys were like, are we going to finish this before you leave for the States? And I'm like, it's already done. You know, yeah, we'll finish it. But we weren't able to launch it. And so they're like, oh, you got to launch it. So, I mean, we're getting ready to go to Managua, and just what we got it. They're like, we've got to do it. So early in the morning before we were leaving for Managua, we took the boat out, and the guys were just smiles from ear to ear, you know. And during the whole building process, these guys are, and we've all seen poverty, you know. Missionaries have seen poverty and gone through it, and you know. But to be able to get these guys on something that's going to provide for them, that's going to help them out, it's something that, you know, we did it plyboard for them. You just saw the plyboard; they didn't see nothing but plyboards, pieces, and then we had to zip tie it all together to just to get the form to make sure everything worked out. And once we zip tied it together, and they saw the form of this boat, they saw the reality of this thing. They were just jumping up and down. I mean, these guys were just like, oh, we're gonna have a boat. I was like, can you even? Not even my wildest dreams. We're gonna have a boat. You know, and we took it out. I got pictures on the web, and just these guys are just ear to ear, like. They're like, well, we got to register. How many Nicaraguans could we get in here? I'm like, oh, that's at least a 10-seater. And I'm like, I'm thinking 4. So with the vocational school, we've started that, and we've done little things. And the thing about Corinto also is they have a ship that comes in, a cruiser that goes from California all the way down to the west coast, to Panama, down South America. And they come to Corinto and they dock there, and all these people from Managua come in and everywhere else and have these artisanias, crafts, yeah, and they have all their crafts, their local crafts, and nobody in Corinto has a booth. And I'm like, that's silly. I was like, you know, this is opportunity for you. So we've started that. We're starting to make little knickknacks and very little clocks. Really nice clocks, just mahogany and just Coca-Cola, just surfboard chairs. We've started surfboards. We're doing surfboards. And
Pacific Coast, big wave.
Yeah.
So let me say one thing. You know, as you notice, Ben's pretty shy. So I need to just say this about him. He said he's a trim carpenter. Well, he also builds guitars.
Wow.
Now, we're not talking about he's just a trim carpenter. We're talking about the man builds guitars, and they sound good. So,
Yes,
if
that is
anybody's
actually.
qualified to do what he's talking about, God has put the right people there.
Amen.
So, in light of that, Glenn has a presentation.
Do you guys remember when you came into my office over 2 years ago? Eric had, in a sense, recruited you. Thank you, Eric. And you came in and said, we feel that God's calling us to go to Corinto. Do you remember what I said to you? Sitting on that couch?
Right!
It's hot, it's really hot there.
Why in the world would you, if you visited, why in the world would you?
That's
Something to that
basically,
effect.
what I said was, are you sure that God is calling you to take your precious wife and those 3 beautiful daughters and live in Corinto? That's what I said to you, Dan. I said, are you sure? And he looked at me and he said, do you not want us? It's not that we desperately need you and we're praying for the right person, but are you sure God has called you? Because when we say that it is hot there, it is unbearable. These guys take showers in their clothes. That's how they deal with it. They have to get in the shower in the daytime and take showers with their clothes on. It is unbearable. And the fruit that God has brought out of this, what you guys have done, I was down there and saw all that they've done and what God has taught you in laying tile and the ministry to the children. And it's just it is the Lord fulfilling the calling on their lives. And that's what I want to present to you, this little globe here, being faithful to the calling. This is from us to you. I would like the director, there's 6 families in Nicaragua, and God is doing some wonderful things there. And it's all because, I don't know how many years ago, Eric, 12 years ago, Eric in Maryland, took their 6 kids. And Eric went down there, took his wife and his children, at that time it was probably 5, without his wife ever being there to fulfill the call of God on their lives. And the fruit out of that is amazing. But Eric's a country director, and I'd like him to come up and lead us in a prayer for Ben and Susan. And if everybody could stand.